It is exactly 9:31 a.m. Central African time. We're going to be joined by Nigeria-based international relations expert. That, of course, is Dr. Mukhtar Imam. And we are going to be looking at the devastating story about aid cuts pushing at least 55 million people in West and Central Africa towards a hunger crisis. Now, although a combination of conflict, displacement, and economic turmoil has been driving hunger in West and Central Africa, the slashes to humanitarian funding are now pushing communities beyond their ability to cope. And Professor Mukhtar Imam is going to be talking us through this devastation. Assalamu alaikum to you, Professor. Welcome to the program. Great to be talking to you today. Professor, assalamu
Thank you
alaikum.
for having me and good morning. Wa alaikum
Welcome.
assalam. Sorry, the network keeps beeping, but I can manage to hear.
Can you hear me now?
Very clearly now.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. I'm not sure if you heard my introductory statement. I'll just repeat it once again. We understand that a combination of conflict, displacement, and economic turmoil has been driving hunger in West and Central Africa. And the slashes to humanitarian funding, sadly, we're all aware of it, is now pushing communities beyond their ability to cope. Is that as bad as the situation is currently? Do you, in fact, anticipate it to get worse than it currently is now?
Yes.
Would you like to expand on it? Would you like to expand on my introductory statement? I think we're going to have to try and reconnect to Professor Mukhtar Imam. He is based in Abuja. He is a Nigerian-based international relations expert. And we're hoping that he can talk to us more about the campaign, hashtag hunger crisis, hashtag United Nations. Let's see if he can hear me and
Yes,
respond. If not, please go ahead. All right, we are definitely having challenges with that line, but I think we're going to try and hook up with Professor Mukhtar Imam via telephone. Professor, are you there? I understand you are on the telephone now. Assalamu alaikum, welcome. Sorry about that very, very bad line. Assalamu alaikum once again. Third time lucky, as the saying goes. It's 9:35. I can hear you now. Did you hear my introductory comments and statements? If you have, can I hand over to you to please respond?
Yes. Absolutely. I heard every bit of that. Once again, apologies here in the studio and to our audience for the network issue. So, essentially, it's quite unfortunate, but it is an unfortunate reality that figures quoted, who are faced with severe hunger, malnutrition, and suffering as a result of the unfortunate situation that was faced in Central and West Africa, i.e., conflict-based, cuts in funding, have all these factors have culminated in bringing about this unfortunate reality that we're faced with. I believe is that number is quite conservative. The reality on the is very stark. People are faced with a lot of challenges as far as feeding themselves is concerned. When you look at the statistics today across West and Central Africa, the reality is that a lot of people have been pushed beyond or below the poverty line. And this is as a result of all of these factors that you have rightly pointed.
Now, Professor, I also understand that the World Food Programme has put out a statement suggesting that they urgently require more than 453 million US dollars over the next 6 months to continue its humanitarian assistance across the region, where the impacts of the aid budget cuts are very, very evident. If that money doesn't come in, what do you suppose it's going to look like on the ground? Already we hear that as the needs are outpacing funding, so does the risk of young people falling into desperation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, that's one of the ripple effects of this sort of situation. You find that those most affected are young people, the weak in society, women, and the vulnerable. As a matter of fact, these are one of the factors that drive people into desperation. You find that young people in particular become ground by these. If the respondent doesn't
Okay, I think Professor, the line is very, very bad. We can barely hear you. So what we're going to do is try and reconnect. In the meantime, we'll take some ads. Hopefully we can get you on a more stable line.
All right, that's fine.
Searching for elite local and international investment and advisory services from an award-winning firm? Look no further than the Belmont Mayer Group, your gateway to unparalleled investment and wealth management. At Belmont Mayer, we believe in the art of wealth creation, a meticulous process fueled by our unwavering commitment to excellence. With a focus on providing elite alternative investments and quality advice, we also pride ourselves on maximizing value for our esteemed investors, as seen through our consistent outperformance. Your financial success is our top priority. Join us at Belmont Mayer and experience the difference firsthand. Ready to embark on a journey of greatness? Contact us today. Reach out to the Belmont Mayer Group on 078 786 1698. Call or WhatsApp or email us at info@belmontmayer.com. Elevate your financial future with Belmont Mayer, where every detail matters.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
For too many communities across Africa and the world, access to clean water remains a dream. At African Muslims Agency, we dig deep, reaching into the heart of the earth to fill the cups of those in need. Sponsor a water well for only 16,500 Rand or a borehole for 65,000 Rand in Africa or Afghanistan. With water comes food, health, education, and growth. Give water, give life with Africa Muslims Agency.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
The time is exactly 9:42 a.m. We are going to try once again to connect with Professor Mukhtar Imam. He's in Abuja. He is a Nigerian-based international relations expert. And of course, we are talking about the very, very dire situation in Central Africa, and not only Central West and Central Africa, and those countries are reaching a hunger crisis. Professor, welcome back to you. I hope you can hear me clearly now, inshallah. Professor, are you there? Okay, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. The line is very unstable.
Very, very unstable. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Let's give it a shot and see what we look like. I'd like you to just tell us what's happening, what's going down in Mali and in Nigeria. Just how dire is that situation?
Yeah, the situation is quite dire. Beyond just Nigeria and Mali, of course, here in Nigeria, the situation is very serious. Reality is the cuts in aid, as mentioned by the World Food Programme, has drastically affected the ability to support people who are, below the poverty line, those who are impoverished as a result of natural causes and man-made disasters and so forth. So the situation is quite as it has been, put by the international organization. However, I do believe that, again, a number of factors have culminated in creating this unfortunate situation that we're faced with. When you look at the food inflation, for example, across countries within the West and Central Africa, it still stands at about over 20% up till this moment as we speak. So beyond just insurgency, militancy, terrorism, and other natural disasters, the reality is governments within these countries need to sit up and do a lot more in terms of providing food security for their teeming population.
So how has the US aid cuts impacted on this current situation as well? Do you think if they reintroduce aid to West and Central Africa, things will change and shift dramatically?
Yes, they will. The reality is they will, incidentally. However, we must come to the realization that there is aid fatigue across the world. It's not just the US thing, even though the Trump administration has taken it to the further extreme. But the reality is there's a aid fatigue, and donor dependence has become a cankerworm across the continent, and it shouldn't be condoned. However, in the short term, if the aid flow becomes better, if it is restored, reality is it will have significant effect on that population of the most impoverished and those who have been affected by this craziness going around, i.e. insurgency and militancy and conflict across this West and Central Africa. No doubt it will have an effect in the short run. However, in the long run, there is the need for governments within these countries, like I said, to ensure that they begin to harness resources, to ensure that they begin to look inward and think of ways to assuage the situation. Over 100,000 hectares of land have been abandoned in northern Nigeria, for example. That tells tremendously on the effect or impact we see today on food security. So it's not just about aid and aid cut, it's also about fiscal policies within the countries and ensuring that the government begins to repurpose resources for the betterment of the citizenry.
Are you hopeful that that would happen? Because, I mean, Africa has a long history of corrupt governments. Even as far as aid is concerned, we hear that there's bribery and corruption involved there as well. So food and aid that is meant, when I say aid, we're also referring to medication, etc., that is meant for the poorest of the poor doesn't really reach them or reaches them in trickles. So that needs to be stamped out as well. Do you believe governments are, committed enough to start working in stamping out corruption, or are the governments themselves, in collusion with all of these different gangs and, turns a blind eye and just let things slide the way they've, been sliding for so long?
Well, that conversation is quite complex. It is something that we have been talking about for decades. And it's a conversation that will go on. Corruption is the bane of all of the things we're talking about here. Were it not for corruption, in the first place, we will not need to go cap in hand begging for aid. Were it not for corruption, we will not see the rise of so much groups that are antagonizing the state in the name of terrorism and insurgency and so forth. Because beneath all of that antagonism, you find that it is either about resource nationalism, resource control, resource management. It is often resource-based, so where people feel alienated from the state, where people do not feel a sense of belonging, this is the sort of unintended consequences that you see. So corruption is the canker worm that is driving all of this. And again, that's the reason why we're beginning to witness this democratic reversal. We're seeing the resurgence of military incursion. These young officers today saying, look, we're tired of the corrupt regimes and the corrupt administrations. We want to take the bull by the horn. For example, the case of Burkina Faso, the case of Niger, the case of Mali, where we see the young officers coming on board to say, look, we need to begin to do things differently. We need to ensure that we harness our resources and use it for the betterment of our people. So it's not a yes or no answer. However, we're hopeful. I, in particular, am one of those unrepentant optimists of the Nigerian and African dream. I do believe strongly that we will come out of the woods, but the indices, as far as today is concerned, as far as what we have witnessed, leading up to this moment, the reality is we might not necessarily see a radical shift or change in how this resources, whether aid or locally harnessed, are managed and distributed. We might not necessarily see a radical shift in the upliftment of the condition of the people. However, I do believe that where leadership begins to be held accountable, we might see some change, and we're witnessing that happening, in silos here and there. I am not very hopeful that when this aid is restored, we might see people just being lifted out of poverty overnight. However, we use this medium and other similar platform to appeal to the conscience of those who are in position of authority, to understand that the plight of the people should be put foremost, because at the end of the day, governance is about the people. And so where people do not find that they can feed, that's the baseline. Where people do not find that they can have access to food, it becomes problematic. And naturally, a hungry man could be wilder than the beast. So I think leaders need to do more. This is an appeal, a passionate appeal, not just to West and Central African leaders, but leaders across the continent. With the resources we have on this continent, we shouldn't be talking about aid and dependence on foreign support and so on. We should be feeding the world. 60% of the land in this country, Nigeria, is arable. And so we should be talking about not just food sufficiency within the country, but being able to export the food. But here we are trapped in this vicious circle.
Very sadly, I do hope there were very many other people with your thinking. You do allude to the arable land where we could be feeding the whole world. That's just the one aspect of Africa's riches. What about the minerals and resources that we have here in Africa? And we know that what Western powers do, they come in and make huge promises, but they just here to get their dirty paws onto all the minerals and resources of the African people, and then sow discontent amongst the people and cause further division and strife amongst the people. You also alluded a little earlier on to young generals in the army wanting to see a shift in thinking and wanting the people to be fed, the people to be educated, the people to be taken out of their despair. But for me, sadly, when we hear about aspirations of young people, oftentimes they come into power, we follow them for a couple of years, things go well, and for somewhere, somehow along the line, they too then get corrupted, and all those dreams and visions they've had just fall by the wayside. So it's really all about greed, power, wanting more and more and more, and just not being satisfied with what you get. Do you see a way out of all of this?
Well, again, like I said, I am an unrepentant optimist. I do believe that we will come out of the woods. Africa is so
Alhamdulillah.
blessed. We have so much potentials. All it requires is for us to harness these potentials. Again, like you alluded to, when you look at the likes of Yoweri Museveni, when you look at the likes of Omar al-Bashir, when you look at the likes of Nassim Idama across the continent, you will find that these were people who had vision. These were people who had hunger for, revolution, to bring about some kind of radical change in the living condition of their people. And they all did this at a very tender age. They all did this very young. And at the end of the day, when they got into power, the tables turned, the stories changed. However, what we're witnessing now, this is not again to say that we're throwing our weight behind a specific type of administration, say the military regime, for example. But what we're witnessing in Burkina Faso, in particular, with Ibrahim Traore, with Abdurrahman, and these young officers who have taken over power, we're beginning to see, an awakening. This is the point. Yes, of course, we're not saying democracy is the best. There's a democratic reversal all over the world today, not necessarily in Africa. You cannot point to one place where elections have been held and it is not being contested and protested across the world. So therefore, it's not it's not so much about the nomenclature you give to the style of leadership or government. It's about the dividends of governance. That's all people are concerned about. Put food on their table. They don't care what name you give to the system of administration. So I do believe that there are people with good motive, with the conscience, with the Afrocentric mindset, with the resource nationalistic views, who are willing to come on board and bring about this change. However, the opportunity has not been granted. Nonetheless, I feel that the future holds a lot, and we will find the way out of this. The consciousness is beginning to prick people, and people are beginning to ask questions. People are beginning to hold leaders accountable, and so on. It's not necessarily about young people. They're terrible young people as much as they are good old people. So for me, it's not about the generation. It's not about the ethnicity. It's not about the gender. It is much more about the capacity of the individual to deliver. And remember, as we would always say, every society is built on two things: the strength of the youth and the wisdom of the elders. So we hope that this different demographics will awaken that consciousness in them. Look at the Democratic Republic of Congo, for example. 90% of rare earth around the world is found in the DRC. Come to Nigeria, virtually every resource you're looking for in the world is in large and commercial quantity across the breadth of this country. This is a country that has the sixth highest deposit of oil and the third highest of gas in the world. So we have no reason to wait for aid and wait for these people who tie this aid to different conditions and conditionalities and so on and so forth. We can't continue to do that. There are models around the world we need to copy from. However, I do believe it starts from the self. As much as my advocacy has always been that we have our social economic problems, the social psychological conditioning of our people is what we need to begin to focus on. Because if we don't focus on the mindset, the thought process of our people, nothing will change. The Chinese labeled what they did the cultural revolution. It wasn't by accident, it wasn't by chance, it was intentional, because it stems from there. Every society is governed by its triangles: political, economic, and social dimension. All these pillars sit on the social order. If you do not have a social order that works efficiently, such as we're seeing, for example, in Rwanda, and we're beginning to witness in Burkina Faso, nothing will change. So the mindset is where the challenge is. And again, with advocacy, with education, with, the will of the Almighty, we will somehow come out of the woods.
Alhamdulillah. And I think that if you are able to feed your nation, your people, if corruption is kind of wiped out, and if you're able to give people dignity by way of them earning their food, earning a living, a decent living, you're giving them dignity and respect, you're giving them the opportunity of education, and you can and will see a change in the people and in the country itself. And it's not impossible. You've just mentioned Rwanda as well. It might have been with the help of Western powers, but the fact of the matter is it is a story, possibly, or a model to be followed. But we have to wrap up there in a minute or two. I'm going to hand over to you to just give us your final thoughts on the situation regarding aid and the fact that if nothing is done, and sooner rather than later, we're going to have large-scale malnutrition on our hands, like we saw back in the day in Biafra and other parts of Africa, which was truly horrific. So
Absolutely.
over to you for your
Yeah,
final.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And very quickly, you see, all of the things we've talked about here are the consequences of two things: internal contradictions and external interferences. An international rule-based system or rule-based order was established, led by the United States from the period of the First and more significantly the Second World War. Trump is trying to distort that order. As much as he's trying to say, look, I am an ultra-nationalist, everybody go back to your cocoon, fix your own, it's America first. He needs to understand that the United States, the West, led by the United States, largely led to and created the catastrophe and calamity that we're witnessing across not just Africa today, but the Middle East and other parts of the world. You cannot just distort an international rule-based order and expect that things will flow and work, and they have always had a hand in this, like I said. Libya, for example, the story is everywhere. So therefore, I would want to appeal that those who have what it takes to restore the aid flow, particularly the feeding of people who are impoverished in conflict zones, should do whatever they can to ensure that that is done. But in the long run, it is the responsibility of local leaders, authorities within this environment in which this is happening, to take the bull by the horn and ensure that they do the needful. Nobody from out there is coming to fix your problem for you. Unfortunately, this is the reality of international politics. Nobody is coming to fix your problem. We must ensure that we take measures and steps to fix this problem. We have a teeming young population out there starved to death. And we expect these are desperate times, and these young folks will fall for whatever comes their way. So government needs to ensure that we focus more on the non-kinetic measures, ensure that people have access to food, ensure that you provide the condition for people to return back to their farms. And it is not impossible, like you said. So I do believe that if the greed is curtailed, if corruption is managed, because you can never eradicate it completely, but if it is managed and reduced drastically, we will see a situation where people will live a life of dignity, like you rightly mentioned. And of course, perhaps that will bring some level of, reduction to the crisis that we're faced with across the continent. But it is our problem. So we need to begin to think inward. It is about the Afrocentric thought. It is about resource nationalism, and it is about people holding their conscience to account and ensuring that they do the needful. Because in the long run, leadership is about the ordinary people.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad we were able to get you on a more stable line, because you've truly given us lots to think about. Alhamdulillah, we do hope and pray that your words reverberate through all of Africa to the African leaders. Let them sit back and think about how they can restore their dignity, wipe out corruption, and give the people what is rightfully theirs. As you said right at the beginning of the program, Africa can and is able to feed the world. And here we're going around with a begging bowl in our hands to the Western world. And what do? They come into Africa, give us a pittance, and then rape our lands and our natural resources. But it was wonderful talking to you. I thoroughly enjoyed your thoughts on the situation of us as African people. Inshallah, let's hope and pray that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Keep us in your du'as. Go well, and salamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much for having me.
And that's where we will be wrapping up. But before I do, we here at Salam Media, once again, in the name of humanitarian journalism, are very, very proud to announce the arrival of a lawyer for Afia Siddiqui. He's a human rights lawyer. He is Clive Stafford Smith, and he starts his speaking tour in South Africa as of today. Thus far, we do know he will be in Pietermaritzburg this evening at 7:30 p.m. He'll be in Durban tomorrow evening, also at 7:30 p.m. Tonight, he'll be at the Nizamia Islamic School Hall, 181 Masukwana Street in Pietermaritzburg. Tomorrow night, he'll be at the Suleiman Lockhart Auditorium, Kenilworth Road, Overport in Durban. And Friday the 23rd of January. Pardon, I think I've given you the wrong dates. The 21st of January is not tonight, it's on Wednesday night. And then Thursday, the 22nd, is in Durban. Friday, the 23rd, is Port Shepstone. Saturday, the 24th, is in Johannesburg, and Sunday the 25th is in Pretoria. Please do get in touch with our COO, Ponti Molisani, if you would like to become a part of this amazing speaking tour. And it is all about, bringing Afia Siddiqui home. The number for Ponti is 0815699770. We have some amazing partners. In Pietermaritzburg, we have the Palestine Solidarity Group, and we also have the Pietermaritzburg Muslim Women's Organization. They are our supporting partners. On Wednesday night, the 21st, on Thursday, the 22nd of January. Our partners are Caring Sisters Network, South African Palestine Movement, Islamic Medical Association, Islamic Forum, Al Insar Radio, South African Muslim Network, the KZN PSF, and last but not least, it is the Pakistan South African Chamber of Commerce. Amazing heavyweights as our partners on this campaign. So let's see what Port Shepstone, Johannesburg, and Pretoria can pull out of the hat. I'm going to be wrapping up now, but not without sharing this very important information with you. A project of Salam Media's Global Voices campaign, first time ever in South Africa. Bring Afia home. Afia was kidnapped with her kids, tortured, shot, mistreated for over 20 years in prison. And we have Clive Stafford Smith. He is a lawyer for Afia Siddiqui. He's also a renowned human rights lawyer based in the UK. So please become a part of this conversation. Join us at any one of the events that I've mentioned, and the venues, of course, for an exclusive update on Afia Siddiqui's case. You as an individual and as a collective should use whatever power you have to try to help people who need your help, to support independent media. And that's where we leave it. Thank you indeed for listening, for your company on the show today. From me till tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Yep, at 11 o'clock on the mid-morning show. It's a lifestyle show. Join me and we can do lots more talking. Till then, take care. Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.